Hi guys and welcome back to Slice of Mike. Today I'm doing my first ever book haul and I'm very excited about it, but I'm also kind of scared because it's a lot of books and I don't know if I have enough time to talk about all of them, but I'm gonna try. So let's just jump right into it. First we have a book called Nosferatu by Joe Hill. It's his newest release. I believe it came out last year or 2013 maybe already. Joe Hill, if you didn't know, is Stephen King's son and he writes equally terrifying stories. So if you like Stephen King, I would definitely read this. I can't really recommend it because I haven't read it yet. I'm not sure what this is about besides a creepy guy who drives around and picks up hitchhikers and I'm assuming does nasty things to them. I don't really know details. Next is a book called Rooftoppers by Karen Russell. That's not the name at all, that's a different author. Catherine Rundell. Clearly I've never read anything by this author, so whatever. This book was really big last year, I think. I'm just now getting to it. It's blurred by Philip Pullman on the back, so I'm kind of expecting this one to be magical in some way. And the cover has a cellist on the rooftops of Paris, I believe, with a moon behind him, or her, and some pigeons just casually hanging out in the foreground, so I'll let you know what I thought of it. It looks like it's going to be a really quick book, so I'll probably read this first and have it finished in the next few weeks for review. Next we have a book called Deathless by Catherine M. Valenti, and it's a story written based on Russian folklore about a character named Koschei the Deathless. I don't know very much about him, but apparently he figures pretty prominently in Russian folklore. And so this is a modern retelling of that myth figure story. I like folktales and fairy tales an awful lot, and I think a lot of what we read now is based on European folktales like Beauty and the Beast and Cinderella, so I'm excited to read something that doesn't really come from that pool of thought. Next is a book called The Alchemist by Paolo. I've avoided saying his last name for years because I don't know how. Paolo C. We'll just say that. The Alchemist was really, really big a few years back. It's a very short, inspirational story. So in this story, from what I know, there's a young boy who lives in Spain. He's a shepherd, and one day he meets this old guy who convinces him to follow his dreams and find treasure in Egypt. I actually started reading this already. I'm about halfway through, and I'm at the point where there's this twisty turn, and I think the story might take a different direction now, and I'm excited about that because before I was not really into it. But I'll finish it because it's a pretty short book anyways. Next is a book called Far, Far Away by... I have no idea. Tom McNeill. So Far, Far Away, I believe, is based on fairy tales as well, although I don't think it's a retelling. It seems to have elements of Hansel and Gretel in it. And the main characters are a boy, a girl, and a ghost, so it's probably gonna be creepy, but I'm looking forward to it. And this is either young adult or middle grade fiction, so it should go by pretty quickly. Next is a book called The Secret History by Donna Tartt. It's used, so forgive the disgusting condition. And I got this because I read The Goldfinch last year, and I loved it. It was a bit long, and this looks shorter, so I'm excited for that break, thankfully. The Secret History is about a secret society of liberal arts students somewhere in the Northeast, and I don't know much else besides that. I think there's a murder that takes place and some sort of conspiracy to cover it up. But having read The Goldfinch, I know that Donna Tartt tells a really good story, so I'm excited to read this. It's going to take me a little longer than the other books I've shown you so far because, well, it's just, you know, of a different nature, so I might not have this finished this month, but I'll definitely get to it sometime in the winter. Another contemporary book that I just got is The Bone Clocks. I was supposed to read this for book club, but it's super, super long, and it just never happened. It's hard to read book club books because you're on a bit of a time crunch and you feel obligated to read it, so it's not necessarily the first thing that I grab when I want to read for leisure. So I had good intentions, I just never got around to it, but now that I own it, I will definitely read it some point this year. I'm not too excited about this, unfortunately. I got mixed reviews and I'm in a bit of a funk about it, so we'll see what happens. Next is a book called The Age of Miracles by Karen Thompson Walker. I'm a huge fan of dystopian, not necessarily dystopian trilogies. I haven't read a lot of young adult standalones in the dystopian department, so I think this is going to be really interesting. I had a friend who read this last year. He didn't enjoy it, but I have zero expectations, so how can I be disappointed, right? Again, it's really short, so I should fly through it, and if I hate it, I'll just stop reading it. Life's too short for bad books. Speaking of bad books, I'm just kidding, I haven't read this. How can I judge it already? Next is a book called Summer and Bird by Catherine Catmull, and there are like 3 different Catherines on my list right now, so this is pretty weird. There are literally an abundance of Catherines. Hashtag John Green. I picked this one up because of the cover. It is filled with birds, and I like birds a lot, and I was interested to see what the story was about. I should have learned by now not to judge books by their covers, but that method works about 70% of the time, so I'm just gonna keep doing it, I guess. There are 2 girls named Summer and Bird. They're sisters who live with their parents in the forest. One day their parents go missing and they have to go search for them. The villain is either a swan or related to a swan or art swan or something, I don't know. And this was recommended by, if not Marissa Meyer herself, then someone else who writes fairy tale retellings, so this will definitely have elements of fairy tales in it, so I'm excited about that. Next we have Seraphina by Rachel Hartman, and I love dragons a lot, so I'm excited to read this. And from what I hear about this, the dragons you'd find here aren't necessarily like they are in other fiction stories. They're able to assume human shape, and I believe some of them live among humans, and the plot of the story is a death that takes place which the dragons may have committed or they may have been framed for, nobody knows. It's also really shiny, and I like shiny things a lot, who doesn't, so I'm probably gonna like this a lot too. It sounds like a quick-paced supernatural thriller, and I think this is probably at the top of my TBR list right now, so I'll probably read this in the next week or two. And finally, thank God, because I'm out of breath and I'm also freaking out about the amount of books that I have to read now, is a book called Heap House by Edward Carey. This is a book about a family called the Ironmongers who live at Heap House, and each Ironmonger has a birth object. And the birth object can be as random as a kitchen utensil or a doorknob or something strange like that, but basically their life force is attached to that, and if they ever lose it, they will die. So the main character in this book is a young boy who loses his birth object, and either someone took it or he just straight up lost it. And they have to figure out who has it before he dies. And from the looks of it, this is going to be both grim and funny, and that's my exact cup of tea, so I'm really excited to read this. I think this is at the top of my list as well right now, probably right below Seraphina, so I'll read this pretty soon coming up here. Anyways, that's all I have to show you today. I'm kind of freaking out because I have a lot of crap to read right now and not enough time to read it, oh my god. If you guys have read any of these books, please tell me about it in the comments section, and if you didn't like them especially, tell me so I can avoid them and make time for the ones that are actually good. And by the same principle, if you loved any of these books, I will move them to the top of my list for sure, so let me know about that as well. So first book haul done, I can check that one off the list, and I'm excited to do more videos about different topics in the future, so look forward to those later this month. And I'll be back with another video on Monday. If you guys like this video, please leave a like, and look forward to the next video coming up in a few days. In the meantime, I hope you guys keep warm, keep reading, and I will see you all later in a few days. Bye!